Alright guys, this is activity 7.4. It's the second part of it, so part 2. We're going to put together the Automoblox assembly. I am only going to give you some tips. The majority of this is going to be for you to do on your own. So, first things I wanted to review in Inventor, how you can get those files to you. You should have them on your desktop at this point in time. So, I'm just closing some of these windows down so that you can see what I got going on here. And I have a folder right here that has some Automoblox files in it. There they are right there. So keep in mind what we're going to do is we are going to hold down a shift and highlight all of them, right click and copy. And then once you copy all of those files, we can paste them into a project folder. So in Inventor, you're going to make a new project folder the same way we did last time. And when I made my new project folder, I called it Automoblox 2 because we already had some parts that we made for the Automoblox. We're actually going to use all these parts that are made for you. That way everything's going to fit together the way it should and should work out great. But you're going to go through and make a new project folder. I called mine Automoblox 2. Once you have that folder created, just navigate to that folder on your computer, wherever it might be. And once you get there, to wherever that is, which again on mine, I know where it is, so you're going to have to find that on your own. I can't tell you where your project folder is on your computer, but if I navigate to mine, here it is right here. I'm just going to copy, actually not copy anymore, I'm going to paste those files into here and I'd have them all. Now notice I already did the project once so that I have some other things in there, but you're just going to paste those 9, 10, 11 files in there, and then you should be good to go. So the goal here is to make the Automoblox assembly. So I kind of already did. You're supposed to do 3 sub-assemblies. Here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. So you're supposed to do those 3 sub-assemblies and then put them all together into one final project. So I'm just going to give you some tips, like I said before, so that you kind of know how it works out. I'm going to create a new assembly because I'm going to pretend like I have not done this before. And when I make my new assembly, the first thing that I'm going to do is place my parts. So I want always place the biggest wooden part first. That's probably going to be the easiest to do. And in this case, if I were doing the back end of it, I'm going to go with the T9 bed. And I'm just going to open that. Keep in mind the first place that you put in is always grounded. So if the first part's always grounded, I can't move it up, I can't move it down, I can't move it to the left. I don't like the way it's orientated. So the very first thing I'm going to do is make this my front, right click, set current view as front. And then I just go right up to there and I'm going to click on the right click on the little house, set current view at a fixed distance. And that's going to help me with the other things that I'm supposed to do. I need a couple tires and a couple wheels. So if I click on the T9 tire and open that, click, click, they're both in. So you can do that with the rest of them. I'm just going to grab an axle here. So place, let's get the T9 axle, open, click, click. I'm not going to put all these in for you. You guys can do this on your own. But I do want the connector, and I think the directions said that I want the single. So read the directions really carefully. Because they tell you exactly what pieces you need to do it. I think I need the 1 block socket for this one. And I'm putting that in right there. Alright, now that I've done that, these are all the parts that I would need to do it. I'm just going to go through and put some together using the constraint tool. So I'm going to use the insert, and I'm going to click on the little rim there, and the little rim there, and that's inserted. Say apply. I'm going to put my wheel onto the axle. So I'm going to click on the little rim right there, Let's go around and get my wheel. Click on the outer part of the wheel, and that should be, it didn't quite go in the way I wanted to, but you can just flip it around. And if I look, my wheel should be kind of free there. Here's one of the things that I want to kind of, give you as a tip. This axle can still spin around. And the wheel, I want the wheel to be able to spin. So if I go up to View and Degrees of Freedom, both the wheel and the little green axle can spin around. So I'm going to use a different constraint on this. There's a nice flat edge right there. And I am going to use the angle constraint to constrain that to this front edge. And now that I've done that, that axle can't spin anymore. It's fixed, but my wheel still can spin around. So that's kind of a nice, neat little way to make it so that the wheel spins and the axle doesn't. So the degrees of freedom I'm seeing are only for the wheel right now. It's not for my axle. I'm going to put my tire on. So I'm going to use the insert constraint again. Click on the outer edge there, the inner edge there. It didn't go the way I wanted it to, so flip it around. That's what these do, they'll flip it around for you. Hit apply. My wheel has degrees of freedom where it can spin, and the tire has degrees of freedom where it can spin. Technically, we want these to be, one unit. We don't want them to spin independently of each other. So I can do that too. It's actually not that hard. On my wheel, I'm going to put in a plane. Not that one. Anyone that goes through the middle. So either one of those two. Right click, make it visible. And when I do that, I'm going to do the same thing I did before with the angle constraint. And use this angle constraint. I'm going to get in here on really close on one of these, flat surfaces, and constrain it to that work plane. I wanted to click this one right here, directed angle, hit apply, and we should be good. Now, the tire and the wheel are one thing. They don't move independently of each other anymore. So I am going to make this not visible anymore. Last little tip I have for you on putting some things together besides the wheels is when you put this piece in, the front rim, right now it's got 3 degrees of freedom, the front rim, that edge right there, sits flush with this. So you can still see I have 2 degrees of freedom with that, where the front edge is still flush with it. And it's all about this rim. It's the rim that you have to constrain, not the actual plastic piece itself. If you had the Automoblox car at home, you'd be able to see that, but you can't see it because you're not here. So I'm going to constrain using the mate constraint, and this is hard to see from where you guys are, I'm sure. The top of that rim, so the little top of this piece, I gotta zoom in now, right there. So the top of that, I'm going to constrain it with up there. And now you can see I'm down to 1 degree of freedom, where the only thing I can do is slide this back and forth. I can't go up or down or anything. So again, it's the rim that we're focused on. I'm going to constrain the I like it when it's out there better. Constrain the with the mate constraint right there. I don't want this line, I don't want this line. I'm going to go right in the middle, and I'm going to constrain that over here. And when I'm done, that should be in place. And for now, that's probably enough tips that you guys can get through the rest of this on your own. Getting the parts in the way that they're supposed to be. If you have any questions, please send me an email so that I can help you out. I am going to show you one thing further, but this is true for all of these connector pieces. It's all about the rim, not the actual. Don't try to connect the plastic piece to the plastic piece or anything like that. It gets really hard if you start doing that. So, as I said before, the goal here is you're going to have these 3 sub-assemblies made. This is the one I was just making. you're going to have the front and you're going to have the middle. You got to put them all together. So when you go to put them all together, since you're going to have sub-assemblies, you're just going to create one new assembly. And when you create that new assembly, you're going to pull in those sub-assemblies that you've already put together. So, for example, I got my body. I'm going to start with that and make sure that that's my grounded component. Because remember, the first thing you bring into any assembly is grounded. I don't like the way it came in, so I am going to make this my front. Right click, set current view as front. Right click on the little house, set current view as fit to view, and now that's pretty good. This part is grounded. It has no degrees of freedom. When you bring in your other parts, they're going to come in the same way. So when you bring in your other parts, there's one. Let's get my bed. Come on. I am going to need 2 more parts. And remember, there's a connector piece that goes in between these that connects the front to this and connects the front to that. So that's the last thing that I want to show you. I had one heck of a time getting those in there. And that's called the T9 connector. Looks like that. It's what holds those parts together. So you're going to need 2 of them, because one of them goes here and the other one goes here. And then that's where you're going to end up putting the front onto that one and so on. So I moved some parts around. One of the things about the joint command is whichever one you click on first, that's going to be the part that moves. So I'm going to focus on this little spot right here. You could try different ones, like maybe the center might be easier. Here, I'll try the center and see how that works out. And if I click the center of that, I'm going to get around to my car and I'm going to go right on the center of that to see how that gets together. So you can see when I did it with the joint there that it didn't quite go in the way that I wanted it to. That's what this align part is for. I did connect them with a rigid connection. So those 2 parts that I clicked on are not going to move away from each other now. And if I click on align, I can do things to try to align them. And now that it's the way that I want it, I'm going to click again, and that should be in there the way that I want it to be. So if I look really close, you can see that it sits up just a hair above the other one, and that's why trying to flush or mate it doesn't work out well. But it is in there the way that I want to. So that joint command can be really useful as you are trying to put these into the holes that you're trying to get them into. So I'm once again going to use the joint command. I'm going to zoom in and click. Remember, the first part you click is the one that moves. Click. And again, it kind of went in a way that I don't want it to. So I click align, click, and now I'm not holding the click down. But once it gets to where I want it to be, I'm going to click and put that in there. Oop, I missed. Click. There we go. And hit apply. And I got my 2 connectors in there using the joint command. It's a lot easier than the flush and mate with that particular part. So then just put the rest of your assembly together and you should be good to go.